Mike and racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
This is the Magic Mike Show. Mr. Samich, you didn't do the huzzah. I've realized. Huzzah! Been saying huzzah, and I've just kind of talked over it, and I was like, I'm going to pause. Like, conscious. And then I said, like,
I had to wait until you were talking again to do it.
That's true. That's
I can't not be cutting you off when I say it.
Oh man, this was a fun weekend. I didn't do a whole lot when it came to horse racing, just because it's the first weekend I've had, not a whole lot going on as we get closer to the Breeders' Cup, but still a lot of fun action that we saw, and a lot of good action happening. That's a weird thing to say. A lot of fun things that were happening outside of the world of horse racing for me. How are you doing today?
Oh, doing good, man. Yeah, it was a nice weekend. Got to enjoy some good football at Georgia, Alabama on Saturday. On top of the horse racing, we had mandatory payout at Golden Gate, and then Keeneland's one of the last pick sixes alive that I still play because it's the $1 denomination and they don't have a jackpot. So I'll still play that on occasional days. We had a 2-day carryover going into Sunday, so that pick six pool got huge too. So it was a good weekend to bet in some big pools, and I had fun obviously with the Golden Hour pick 4 there on Saturday. So it was a good little weekend.
Yeah, I got to do a lot of house projects, which was nice. Because Saturday there were only, I think, 4 races total. One of them we'll talk about, which is the Lexus Raven Run Stakes at Keeneland. But I got to do. We got a new bed when we moved in this apartment. We got a king size bed, which is great because I'm 6'4" and Mrs. Magic is a 5'9", I think. So between the two of us plus our 2 dogs, that always like to sleep in our bed. Queen size bed was a little small for us, so we got a king size bed.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a national brand or not. Living Spaces, is that something that's national?
Actually, I do know the commercial. Living Spaces.
Yes,
I've heard the commercial. Yeah,
I didn't know if it was.
Well, so that might be why.
That's true. Yeah, I would say you've been out here a lot. So, so we got it from Living Spaces, which is like, it's like a step up from IKEA. It's not a big step up, but it is a step up. So we got a new bed frame and everything. And let's see, that was April when we got it. It's mid-October. I would say probably by June, by around my birthday, the slats that are underneath, because we don't have a box spring, the slats started bowing and they're already squeaking and everything. And it was to the point where if I sneezed in bed, it would just like, you hear like a loud squeaky noise and it would, wake up. Yeah, that's what my sneezes sound like. Yours don't sound like that. Yeah. So anyway, so it was just getting so annoying. I finally had a weekend off. So I went to Home Depot and got a bunch of 1x4 planks, and I ripped up the slats that were squeaking. They were a 1/4 inch thick. Yeah. I laid down these 1-inch boards and and it was so weird because we're now programmed to hear squeaking whenever we touch the bed. So literally just belly flopped onto the bed to prove there wasn't any sound. And the silence was deafening. It was unnerving, but it was a fun weekend. The big problem I realize now, I got to get a new battery for my drill because I have 2 and I was charging the night before. They run out in 10 minutes. And so one's charging while I use the other one. I had to use, I counted 84 screws to put all these planks in because I want to make sure nothing's going to move. But the battery kept dying. So I'm
it's like a weekend.
Literally just throwing my whole weight into the drill to try and push the screw down. And I realized it was about a 2-hour project. From my elbow to my wrist was just seized up all yesterday afternoon after I was done because I just was literally just in this motion the whole time. Oh God. So if you see me do this a lot, if you're watching us live, it's because I'm still trying to work out the kinks in my arm.
Yeah, man. LA bed frames. I bet I would set the over under at 80% are from IKEA. It is ridiculous how many people have IKEA bed frames and how many of those I've moved and become very good at putting together and taking apart because I've moved so many of these things with friends. Within 2 days of buying the house, I bought a drill. I didn't know how to drill in LA. I bought you need a drill so often, so I actually spent some money on a good drill. That was definitely one of the best home purchases I made. That's a big thing they definitely have. And honestly, I'm gonna roll right into the best thing I saw this weekend.
Please do,
because it's totally in line with what you're saying. I got to give it up to the Halloween decorations in my neighborhood and the creativity I already see with people of how they're going to try and deliver candy to people. So
Okay.
people clearly have a lot of time on their hands right now, and for obvious reasons, right? You're at home more often. You get to do a little deeper in the projects. We've got like just decked out yards. We've got the gravestones. We've got spiders. We've got the white fake spider web stuff. We've got ghosts hanging from multiple trees. All kinds of stuff all over our neighborhood. So got to give them a shout out. But the best thing I saw is the creativity people are coming up with online. One guy has drones that he flies back and forth so he can hand out candy to kids. So if they come to his door, he can hand it with a drone. The best one, though, there's a person with a PVC pipe from their second floor that shoots down so they can drop candy down the PVC pipe and it goes right in the kid's bag. First off, if I was a kid, I would love that. Secondly, great ingenuity. Like, way to go, people. That is very, very good job. Like, I love the creativity people are showing, because now this is the first year Lily's going to trick or treat. So I'm like, okay, are we going to go trick or treating? Like, right now, she wants to dress up as an angel. She wants Mama to dress up as an angel and Dada to dress up as Mama. So we'll see how that goes from a costume perspective.
That took a left turn at the end there.
It got a little weird. So we'll see what we do. But I love the creativity people are showing on like ways to try and create some normalcy with everything going on with the trick or treating side. Because like I've heard tables at the corner, or like at your driveway edge, and you just space it out and they can walk up and do that. So I'm excited to see kind of what happens, and we've still got to figure out if we're going trick-or-treating or not. But I got to give a shout out to that PVC pipe idea. That was incredible idea by somebody.
That's just, it's so cool. That's like, I'm with you. If I was a kid and they were like, walk up and put your bucket under this pipe, and then you hear it coming, so like the anticipation building up. No, you don't know what it is. Yeah.
You're like, is it a Twix? Is it a Reese's Pieces?
Is it a Butterfinger?
Smartie? You start dropping toothbrushes, kids get pissed off.
That's awesome, man. That's great. We're not sure, because this is our first time having Halloween here in this apartment complex, and it's gated, so I don't know. There aren't that many kids that live here, so we're not expecting to see anything, but that's fine. Best thing that I saw, there were a lot of options here. I talked about Jessica Pfeiffer getting her first career win. She had wins 2 days in a row over the weekend. This girl is red hot. It's Santa Anita right now as a bug. And Alexis Santino, he's a 7-pound bug. They're both doing really great at Santa Anita. I was going to make it that until today. We almost started this really late. I almost forgot to do the Magic Mike show because I've been watching the California bred yearling sale that's going on at Los Al right now. That's not Keeneland. There are no 7-figure horses out here.
$1 million sales horses that flop in their first race.
There was a bunch of RNAs that started things off that were like, they RNA'd for like $3,000. I'm like, oh, this is how Calbred goes. And then they start in the middle of the book. You've got Nyquist had a horse there, Not This Time, Flintshire, Lord Nelson, trying to think, Outwork, Munnings, like all these like big sires all of a sudden showed up with, the Calbred loopholes. And so I got excited to see what would happen. Right before we went on air, there was a Stay Thirsty colt that sold for $200,000 for a Calbred yearling. Yeah, that's a shit ton of money. I was like, and it was literally as we were about to go live, I had to shut it off right when it happened. But there was a Nyquist filly that I thought was going to be the sale topper. She went for $135. There were a lot of fun horses, and it's so, because of this loophole, I'm like, the Not This Times, the Munnings, there was a whole list. I sent it to Michael Myers, who's a loyal fan, and he's a good sport, because I just kept sending him all my updates every 5 minutes, because he made the mistake of replying to me on Twitter about it. So man, it was a lot of fun.
There's some good first-time sires out there too. I mean, you mentioned Nyquist, Frosted's been doing very well. Not This Time is another one you mentioned who's been doing well. So it's exciting. I'm excited to hear about those horses that are going to be able to be in the Calbred program. And you gotta give props to California and to New York and what they've done with the breeding programs and the money that they're paying out in those state bred races and the state bred conditions and the state bred stakes that they're working on. That's why you're seeing people get creative with how to get these colts and these fillies into California bred programs, because the money is there now. If you can get a good one, you can win a lot of money at 2 and then see what you can do as you grow up. Like it's very lucrative now to be a California and New York bred.
Gafflione is the perfect example. I feel like he's more or less the flag waver for this, the new age of the California breds, because he's a California bred by Uncle Mo. They paid $625,000 for him, and he's almost earned all that back. He's a multiple stakes winner, pretty much. I mean, he's short, long, dirt, turf. Yep. Actual California sires, a lot of them aren't that good. So when you get these out of, the kind of these ones that come in from the loophole, man, Gafflione, $625 is a lot for a California bred. But like you're saying, Mike, it's a a lot of opportunity. I'm going to read off real quick. I'm just going to fly through it. The list of sires who were at the California bred sale. Bodemeister, Constitution, Declaration of War, Distorted Humor, English Channel out of an Unusual Heat mare. I almost want to buy that horse just because you put that horse in 2 turns on the turf and you've got a winner.
Good.
Flintshire, Jimmy Creed, Liam's Map, Looking at Lucky, Lord Nelson, McLean's Music, Mastery, Mohaman, Munnings, Not This Time, Nyquist, Outwork, Practical Joke, Street Boss, Tonalist, Tourist, and Vancouver. Those are all the big sires that showed up at this one. So that's why I was excited for it. It was fun because we don't usually see those out here in California.
And I don't know. I'm sure you don't know this answer. Maybe we can have it for next time. I'd be really interested to know what the average sale price was of the horses that sold at this Calbred auction versus last year, and see if that is going up based on, and I'm sure they'll have that data somewhere because they love saying 20% more year over year, right? Like the fame that everyone wants to say that. So I'm sure that'll be out there, but that would show a nice increase if you do see those prices going up, and especially those sires that you listed. I'd be surprised if they didn't. I mean, that's a pretty good, it's a pretty good murderer's row there of just horse after horse that's producing winners. So that's great for California breds. And hopefully that means we can get more horses in these Cal Stakes too. Jesus, no kidding. It's almost like a mid-Atlantic sale where it's not Keeneland's the premier. The Phasic Tip in New York's pretty big. OBS is a pretty big one. But then you get to these more regional ones where they're not necessarily state bred, but you do have some good sires show up. That's what this one felt like. You've got a bunch of the actual California sired horses. And then these other ones come in. It's starting to give it a little bit of a feel. I'm going to make a note right now. So on Thursday's show, I'll come back with that info because it's only just this one day. So we'll definitely have the averages and everything for that point. I love it.
Average sale price. Sorry, this is great television. Me watching me write down off screen.
Every now and then you can see me like leaning over too because we got the Bills Chiefs game going too. We have a 5:00 East Coast NFL game, which is also awesome, by the way. Really happy about that because then I can have that on in the background. So
Slim was complaining about it, but he actually, Slim should be happy. There's going to be a football game that's over by his, before he goes to bed tonight. So
man, my favorite thing in LA was these early start times on Monday because we would always go to the bar for happy hour right after work and catch the first half of the game and then go home. Like that was just a certainty. Like Busby's in Santa Monica was just a hot spot. Every Monday night we were there because of the happy hour.
I love it because on Sundays you wake up. If you don't have kids, at least you wake up and you just start drinking, and because football starts at 10 a.m. and Dr. Mandu previews races for us sometimes on the site. She was in Vegas a week or two ago when she was complaining. She's like, "This is terrible. As soon as you wake up, there's football, and you don't have time to pregame." I was like, "Well, be an adult and get up earlier and pregame on time." But it's also like you literally have a full day of football from morning to night.
Oh, dude. I mean, we definitely would go and buy, at all the grocery stores now everywhere. But in California was the first I saw this. You go buy the 6-pack of wine, you get 10% off. We'd buy 6 bottles of champagne the night before. People come over and we just have mimosas when it started.
Oh, okay.
And inevitably by 1:00, we're biking over to Vaughn's to pick up 6 more. Like, but it always ends up being like a Sunday fun day that turns into a train wreck by like 5:00.
Yeah. God, when you said that you had 6 bottles of champagne the night before, you meant you purchased them. When I first heard it, I was like, you drank 6 bottles of champagne the night before NFL Sunday? You're toast on Sunday.
That's how you pregame, right?
God, no. I love champagne drunk is a fun drunk, but champagne hangovers, that's right up there with some of the worst I've ever had. That's all that sugar, just.
I agree with you, but the mimosa thing gets everybody involved versus just.
Oh yeah, well in the moment, especially you have one mimosa and you're like, I'm just gonna pace myself, and the next thing you're riding your bike to Vaughn's to get another 6-pack, and then you're just sitting there going, well, tomorrow's already gonna suck, so why the hell not just keep going?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna keep going with looking at what happened this weekend on the Magic Mike show. Let's get into it, Mike. Riders up. All right, first thing we're going to do, we're going to actually look back at the Golden Hour Pick 4 tickets that we gave out on the show on Thursday. If you played Mike's ticket, congratulations, you hit. Mr. Samich, you did a good job. The one race we'll get to in a little bit that knocked me out is the one horse that I said, I could understand why I'd use him. I'm not going to. Mistake on my part. It was a very odd race. We'll get to that in a second. I'll ask you, Mike, do you want to go in the actual order that they ended up running or the original order before Golden Gate gave us the double middle finger after we recorded and moved all the post times? Which order do you want to go?
Well, I see you're still not salty about this. So let's go with the actual post times.
We had so many people email and message say, or on Twitter, like, what do you guys, there's no 9 horse. And I'm like, that's how I found out that they switched the order. I was like, God damn it.
Let's go with the correct order.
The correct order.
9.
All right, cool. We're going to go Santa Anita race 9 on Saturday. This was the grade 3 $100,000 autumn mistakes. Boy, this was a good one. We both loved Warren Showtime. She was the favorite. We both went too deep, used her and one other one trying to get cute. No cuteness about it, man. She gets it done. First time a graded stakes winner. She's now won 4 stakes in her career. This is 4 or 5 stakes now. 5 stakes in her career. What I thought was special, Mike, is that she gave her trainer, Craig Lewis, his 1,000th career win by taking the autumn miss. Also, Craig Lewis trained Warren's Veneta, which is her dam, trained Clubhouse Ride, her sire, and her owners and breeders also owned and bred Warren's Veneta, her dam. So there's a whole big family aspect here. I thought this was great. Plus, it was Flavian Pratt winning on turf, so you had to use it. We did a great job on this one.
Yeah, good job by us. The one thing I would say is I think your other horse was Nasty here, correct? Who's
yes.
the 3 horse. And that was the Baltus trained horse. And we mentioned the other Baltus, but you could have definitely gotten to that horse just because Nasty was in here. We often talk about if a trainer has 2 horses, we believe that they're that trainer is saying that they both have a shot to win. So generally you're going to see about even horses. So if you use one, a lot of times I'll use both horses in a specific sequence. And this was a great example where if you got onto Nasty, you definitely could have gotten on to Going to Vegas, who was the 6th horse, who almost ballooned the board here. Man, if Going to Vegas had won, this would have paid stacks. But obviously Warren Showtime, the shortest priced favorite, 3 to 5 on the entire pick 4. Also probably the most singled horse. We talked about how it was the most likely single on the sequence on Thursday. So no shock that Warren Showtime got home, but man, she really made it tight there. She needed every bit of that stretch to be able to get her nose down at the wire.
She did. And listen, Going to Vegas, I can't remember if we talked about her on the show, but looking at my notes from when I was handicapping, she's all 3 wins had come at this distance, had come at Santa Anita. So literally going 1 mile on the Santa Anita turf is what she seemed to want to do. Baltus had claimed her for $50,000 from her breeders and ran her protected every time, took the blinkers off, lots of things going there. I said that I thought Nasty was, I picked her because I thought she was going to get first jump in like the firm turf. I was right about both of those. She just wasn't good enough to stop Warren Showtime. That's a Calbred who's out there beating Open Company now in Santa Anita. I just love this filly so much.
Yeah, and you look at Going to Vegas, and you mentioned it, how this horse was claimed for 50, and those 3 races since weren't amazing races. So for Baltus to then show the confidence to put this horse in a grade 3, I mean, obviously this is a little bit of red boarding looking back at it, but this is one of those things I often to say you should be spending as much time after the race handicapping the race as you do before, so you can look for angles. And it's one of those things where if I see Baltus do this again, I'll be using that horse. The fact that he protected it 3 times and then had the confidence to go into a grade 3, that was a clear sign that Baltus thought this horse fit. And it almost fit right into the winner's circle. So I think that's something I'm going to be looking for in the future on the Baltus side specifically, is if the horse isn't doing wonderfully and we're going to take a step up in class and we're making an equipment change, I'm probably going to end up using that horse next time out.
Well, let's go to Golden Gate, the second leg, the official second leg of the Golden Hour pick 4. It was race 8 for them at Golden Gate. This was an optional claimer, 1 mile in the synthetic. And the winner ends up being Heck Yeah, which was a great job from you. Heck yeah, good job, Mike. The 6th horse, major jockey upgrade. We both talked about that, how the leading rider right now, he was actually second. Kyle Frey got the rider's title, not that their meet's over. But my big concern with Heck Yeah, as I said, I don't think he's the same horse that he was at 3, which is when he won 4 or 5 starts. 3 of those were stakes races against Calbreds. Now he's a 5-year-old, hasn't won since. Bob Baffert got rid of him. That's not always a great angle to play. And you said he doesn't have to be the same at 3. He just has to be better than these horses. He's got one of the best jockeys in the race. I did not see this horse wiring it because I made a joke about how the 4 and 7 were full brothers and both speed and quit types. I don't know how this horse got the lead and did that, but that was a great job from him and a great job from you.
Yeah, I was surprised by the tactics. I didn't necessarily think this horse was going to wire the field, but it's one of those things that when you have, I could point back to races and I could make a reason why this horse was going to go back to that form. And that was really the reason why I was able to get to Heck Yeah, is that I'm simply saying, look, there is races on the page that win. Mm-hmm. And I also and we talk about this on the show quite a bit. One of my favorite styles is to pick if I like a favorite, I'm going to throw out some of these ancillary horses. I'm going to take a swing with a price. And heck yeah, I was 12-1 and had the back class to be able to compete with these. And the fact of the matter is he returned back to that. I mean, this was really a never in doubter once they turned for home. There was not much of a sweat here. The 5 was able to get its nose down for second, but the 6 was well clear. And so this created, like, when you actually look at how chalked out the sequence was after this race, and obviously Warren Showtime, we're going to talk about the last 2 races, but they were both short prices. The fact that this paid over $200 was actually pretty impressive in my mind. Like, I actually thought that the payout was nice, considering you really just had to get the heck yeah, and you were going to hit the sequence.
And it's weird because like I said on the show, this is a horse I've known ever since he was a 3-year-old. He had a really nice 3-year-old season, and I was like, it didn't make sense to me in the race. It makes sense perfectly looking back now in redboarding, but all you had to do was get to that horse, and I'm sitting here going, that's all I had to do. Like, that seems so easy to me, but that's the beauty of the red board. And every time we say red board, I think of our friend Spencer, Red Board Rewind show. So that's a good podcast too. If you haven't checked that out, that I know Mike's been on it before, and they basically do a little bit of what we're doing right now. So when you get done with the Magic Mike show, go check out Spencer and Red Board Rewind. Yep,
I was there. I was actually on there last week talking about Keeneland and the races over there. Last thing on the 6, heck yeah, one of my favorite angles, 2 sprints to a route. And that's what this horse showed. And we talked a little bit about you were surprised he was on the pace. He was only 4 lengths off a 20-4 pace 2 back, and only 6 lengths off a 21-4 pace last race. So he's got the speed to be up front. And in this case, those 2 sprints, I think, probably helped him really get the distance here to stretch out because he was a little more fit. 3rd off a layoff after 2 sprints.
We'll head back down to Santa Anita, race 10, the final race on their card on Saturday, October 17th. You had a field of 10 maiden fillies going 6.5 furlongs on the dirt. The favorite going in was the number 2, Saving Sophie, who just kept falling down the ladder. She was a 10-start maiden, but 3 starts before this, she was a maiden special weight, maiden 50, maiden 40, finished second in both of those. Drops down to maiden 25, and we both said we didn't love the price. It might be a defensive use for us, but you had to respect the class drop, and it worked. This was the time when the class drop was telling you this is what horse you should use. The buyers all fit. So we got her. The price was terrible, but I mean, you cashed, so you really can't complain about that too much.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to get the price home, but man, it sucks that she was able to get up over that 5. I mean, the 5 was 3-1, and she went off at what, 3-5, something like that, 70 cents on the dollar. This pick 4 probably pays $1,000 if the 5 holds. Like, you're looking at least 3x the payout, which would have been 600, but you're also talking about knocking out a very heavily singled horse. So I bet you're looking at over $1,000 payout if that 5 holds on to against the 2, which obviously would have been very nice. So it's a bummer that the 5 kind of just gets caught right at the wire here. And I was nice to see the 5 show the speed. Again, when we were looking at that, it was kind of obvious you were going to see more speed from that horse. You had Baltus putting a bug jockey on with blinkers on, both signs that a trainer is looking to send a horse. 5 was able to go get the lead, and that's where you want to be against this field. I mean, the 2 was closing in on a career maiden status, and no one really likes to pass horses at this lowest level you see at Santa Anita. So I was pretty excited about that 5 turning from home, and at least our home course caught our horse. But man, it would have been nice if the 5 holds on.
Well, no kidding. That was my top pick in that race. I can't remember if she was yours, but that was definitely my top pick in that race. Okay, yeah. I remember we both did like her, but yeah. Oh, well. We'll go back up to Golden Gate. There wasn't much to talk about. There was a pretty low-level claimers. Golden Gate has, speaking of low-level claimers, 12-5. There's this 10 geldings that had never won twice in their life, going 6 furlongs on the main track. Eskimo Roses, the favorite going in, 0-for-5 wearing blinkers. Didn't really matter because this is another angle we've talked about a lot, and it's something you introduced to me that seems to work well. You get those horses from Del Mar and Santa Anita when they go up to Golden Gate. It's a class drop. It might not look like it on the page, but that is a big class drop. Eskimo Roses get the job done. Look pretty good doing it. Good for this level. Sorry.
If you get the job done, it's finishing 6th. You're right.
Tom wasn't Eskimo Roses who won?
No, Tom Surprise won the race. So Tom Surprise did a great job.
That's right. That was another top pick for me. Okay, never mind.
So
I'm
Tom
sorry.
Surprise gets bet down from 5-1 morning line, bet down all the way to 2.5-1, and ends up winning the race. I was pretty pissed about this race, to be honest. If you go back and watch Coil to Strike, it looked loaded around the turn at 12-1. Loaded around the turn at 12-1 and got pocketed up. The jockey sent just a touch too early and then decided, hey, it's a really good idea to try and squeeze through this rail hole, which wasn't there. And that stopped our 13-1 shot in its tracks and really ended any chance for that horse to win because it was a collapse up front. Like, It was like an 80-year-old playing 18 at Vegas trying to make the turn at 1:00 in the afternoon. It went really poorly, and they all just kind of came right back, hit the reverse button, and you had a couple horses that squirted through. Luckily, the 7 horse was able to get home Tom's surprise. But man, that 6, if that 6 had a better trip, I think Coiled Strike at 13-1 would have been really dangerous.
I don't know why I wrote down the Eskimo Roses. Maybe I was thinking of because that was the 2 horse and Saving Sophie was a 2 horse. Maybe that was it. I remember this replay now because I remember seeing that exact move, the off the rail. And I was like, you had talked about on the show how you like coil horses at the Calbred level. And you had made some good arguments for this horse second off the layoff. Yeah, Alvarado probably was like, I'm going to steal this one. And then as soon as he sent, then there goes the hole.
Shut down. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Well,
we did a good job. we had Tom's surprise, but it was my top pick. I know obviously you used him as well. Got back to that maiden 12-5 level, which is how he broke his maiden. Or the claiming 12-5 level, which is where he broke his maiden. Got Orozco back up, who was the jockey on that day. So good handicapping overall. Again, not the best payout, but this is where the dollar minimum is going to scare some people away, and that low takeout is going to make this better. The win parlay, I don't know if you would have gotten over $100 on this kind of a sequence here. It ends up paying better.
Yeah, and I said I might play a shorter ticket. I played a shorter ticket with Warren Showtime singled. I singled this. I had 5 and 6 in one ticket in the next leg, and just was shorter over. So you could have this one multiple times too, and still pays out. And again, if we get that 5 home in the third leg, we're talking over $1,000. And then all of a sudden the value is huge for 3-5, 6-1, 7-1. I think it was 7-1 on Heck Yeah, and then 3-1, 3-1. And you're talking over $1,000 for that pick 4. So the value is definitely there, and this is definitely one of those bets that I'm going to be looking at every day they offer it.
Well, there was a Munnings horse that sold at the Calbred yearling sale I talked about. Fresh off of Munnings having a pretty great day at Keeneland on Saturday. The Lexus Raven Run Stakes, this was the biggest race of the weekend, I thought. His grade 2 $200,000 purse. 3-year-old fillies going 7 furlongs on the main track. Big reason this was important. This is the exact course and distance that they're going to run the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint. And both Venetian Harbor, your winner from Gate to Wire, and Finite, a very close second, misses by a neck. Those 2 horses are expected to return for the Breeders' Cup. So let's take a look at it first, Mike. Venetian Harbor was your big favorite. This is a horse that loves to go to the lead with the right jockey. Switch over to Manny Franco after Joel Rosario threw up that just absolutely terrible ride at Saratoga trying to strangle her early. Career best 97 buyer for her. Career best 96 for Finite, who almost gets the job done. Steve Asmussen brought her back after a 6-month layoff, put her on turf. We've seen trainers like Mark Cassidy do this, where the turf just kind of helps them get back into the groove. She broke her maiden on turf at Kentucky Downs, but getting back to the dirt seems to be what she liked here. You brought up on the text chain that Ricardo Santana Jr.'s ride you thought was why Finite lost. Do you want to talk about that?
Not really, as Finite was one of my must-use horses.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was an awful ride. Look, he was pocketed up again. And I'm going to say this right now. Venetian Harbor, wherever she shows up in the Breeders' Cup, is a heavy play against for me. I thought this was she won, and that's about the only positive I can take away from this race. For a track that speed was playing well sprinting almost all weekend, to go 23-46 with no pressure, 110-1, and then come home in 13, not great. Just going to say that, not great. Yeah. So I'm probably going to play against Venetian Harbor when we're in the Breeders' Cup here. Back to that ride though, horses don't love closing on the rail. They want to be outside of horses, and Finite was pocketed up, had the opportunity to go wide around the turn, chose to stay inside behind horses, then chose to try and go through the rail. And I think that's what cost Finite this race. I think if Finite goes wide, she wins by a half length over Venetian Harbor. So yeah, I was not happy with the ride here. And I am interested in playing Finite back in the Breeders' Cup, because I think this race was better than it was showed on paper, especially when you watch the replay. She was the best horse in this race. She was making up ground late on a track that you didn't see a ton of horses making up ground late on. I think she had the worst path. So for me, Finite is the one that you play out of this race, not Venetian Harbor. And Venetian Harbor is actually a chuck.
I'm with you. I am completely with you. And the fact that she's going to have that recent win over the course and distance when they get to the Breeders' Cup, I think a lot of people are going to go, oh yeah, look at that, or look how brave she was to get to fight on and win. If Manny Franco doesn't ride the way that she's supposed to be ridden and listens to the trainer, I don't know that Venetian Harbor gets the job done here. Finite could be maybe an underneath play. For me, and you've watched Keeneland a lot more than I have, especially this fall meet, so you can correct me or build on this, but the track seems to be playing very well, like down the middle, if you're trying to run from off the pace on the dirt. And you're right that horses don't like to. It takes a really brave, strong-willed horse to try and close along the rail. It can be done, but how often you see a horse come flying on the outside, it's going to get the job done. So is that the way you've seen the track play a little bit? Is at least if you're closing, you need to be more down the middle of the dirt?
Yeah, I mean, the track has been very fair at Keeneland. But closers generally win down the middle because horses generally want the extra space. They don't want to try and fit through somewhere. They want to have more room to run. And that's where I had the issue with the ride, not the fact that the horse was off the lead or anything. It was the fact that Santana didn't wheel this horse outside. He could have gone 4 wide mid-turn or could have kind of bullied his way out the top of the stretch. And there were, I realized he was probably trying to split and go. But when that split and go didn't happen and you had Venetian Harbor weaving a little bit, he was forced to go inside, and that's why he didn't go by on finite. So for me, I really wish you pushed the horse outside and gave it some clear room to run, because the horse with more room, horses can be very finicky, obviously. And when they feel like they're getting tight and squeezed, they just don't want to fire through. I mean, think about it. You don't want to run through a hole that you don't think you necessarily fit through as a human either. So just putting the horses down on the rail and then getting them squeezed. And, generally horses do veer in down the stretch toward the rail. You see it all the time. So I wish that they sent finite wide here, because down the middle of the track is where you see everyone closing. Now, maybe that's because most closers close down the middle of the track. Maybe it's because the outside's faster, but either way, that down the middle area has been good this whole meet.
Well, I also, you brought up a great point. I thought the races I've watched, it's played fair. When there's a lack of speed and you have a lone leader, that's probably the horse that's going to wire. If there's a lot of speed, if there's strong closers, the best horses seem to be doing well at Keeneland, no matter what their running style is, which is a very nice change from what we saw at Pimlico, we saw at Churchill, where sometimes that rail was just like a golden ticket to get back home. I mean, you'd see horses start to pull up and pass, and then if you're on the rail, it's like they found a new gear just being on that inside surface there.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's and maybe it changes with rain. Keeneland's been pretty dry for the last couple weeks, so maybe we'll get a rainstorm and that'll change how the track plays a little bit, change how the turf plays a little bit. But for now, I think you really just have to kind of trust the track's going to play pretty fair. One cool thing I did see, I want to shout out: Keeneland is showing their whole turf courses conditions. First, not just one specific area, and you threw me up there. I don't know if you have it all ready to go. It looks like you're pulling it up, but they'll actually show.
But I'll pull this up for you.
They're showing the entire turf and what areas are good, what areas are firm. So it's not just a specific firm or specific good, but it's actually like, okay, is the stretch firm or good? Is the first turn firm or good? Which I think is really interesting. I haven't had the opportunity to go back and look through these and see if there's any correlation to specifically the second turn in the stretch and speed or closers doing well, because I do think that would be something interesting to look at and see if there is a correlation before Breeders' Cup Friday and Saturday. But I got to give props to Keeneland for even putting it up. I think it's pretty cool that they're posting up this information, because it's really unique. I've not seen it before.
Yeah, this Keeneland Going Index report. So you've got the forecast, you have the degrees in Celsius and Fahrenheit, the recent precipitation, the recent irrigation for when especially for the turf, when they try and let it breathe a little bit. The rating here, you can see that they've got a nice legend, color coding it. I'm a simple person. I love that. Just change all the little colors and you can tell where it's at. And what's interesting, I'm not saying that this isn't something I'm sure they did on purpose, but look where it gets the best. The best numbers are right there in the stretch. And so it's just making for the, really strong, finishes in those turf races. So this is the graphic that came up. It was Patrick Cummings, who's a must follow on Twitter if you're into horse racing at all. But this is what Mike was talking about. Yeah,
it's interesting. Best means firmest, which may not be best for some horses. Maybe that's one reason why a speed horse gets a second wind. Or, I think it'd be awfully interesting to look at that and to kind of see how it plays out. Because sprinting speed's been very good on the turf. Closers have been going long on the turf. So it's kind of interesting to see. I want to go back and actually do the work to figure out if you can get some type of handicapping edge based on these graphics every day.
That makes one of us. I have enough work on my plate. You go ahead and do that by all means.
I gotta go win the BCBC here. I got 2 weeks to figure out how to win that sucker. So I gotta get every edge I can.
All right, Mike, since we had a slower day, I promised this before. I said with the fan questions for the 200th episode special, I said, hey, we'll bring this back if we didn't get to you. We finally have time. We're going to bring it back. One of the questions here from Taylor Swest. In your opinion, what is the biggest factor when handicapping, especially when it comes to picking bombs? #Bomb Squad.
Yeah, I mean, so when I'm looking for long shots, I'm looking for races I can point to in their back races that would win the race or make them competitive, specifically if they have a pace advantage. Either if I think it's going to collapse and they can get home, or if I think that they're going to have a lone lead. So those are the two main things I'm looking for, making sure they do have back races I can point to, or if I think there's a big time logical step up, like if they're adding blinkers and they're a speed and they're a bug, or things like that. It's kind of combining those different aspects to horses that have a specific pace advantage that are a big price.
We had this question pop up a lot, and I think I've touched on it before. There's another one here from Neely Green. What's the most reliable angle in horse racing? Is it route to sprint, dirt to turf, adding blinkers, anything along those lines? It's tough. It's so hard to have one surefire angle. I guess a different way of replying to these questions is, what would be a favorite angle of yours? What is something that you're always looking to do, depending on where they're at? I've changed. I like to look at the form in recent and see, is there a sign of progression? Are you coming first off the layoff? What is your recent form telling me? That's kind of one of the things that is, I wouldn't say the most reliable, but that is one of the first things that I look at is, what is your recent form? A handful of races tell me.
Yeah, I mean, one I love is Heck Yeah actually falls into part of it. I mean, late in the 4-year-old season, 2 sprints to a route, third off the layoff. I know it's really specific, but it's the time that a horse improves the most is late in their 4-year-old season. Each sprint helps them build stamina going into that route, third off the layoff. Generally, form cycle, your second or third race is where you'll see the most logical progression in buyers in the second or third race. So that third off the layoff hits again. And generally, you're going to be forwardly placed because you've just trained some speed into the horse. So 4-year-old season, third race off a layoff, 2 sprints to a route. I know it, super specific, but that's what you're looking for. I hope, that's one I've had a lot of success with.
Yeah, and Dennis brings this up, and this is really the true point: is an angle fits the horse in the race. There's no general thing. There's no one specific thing that we can point to and say this is going to work 100%, 80% of the time. This is the fun and joy of horse racing, is that there are so many freaking factors and so many unknowns. You don't know, was the horse having a cough? Is that why there was a month gap there? Is it not feeling well? Did it not ship well? Is it missing its barn buddy? Like, there's so many freaking things that can drive you nuts about this sport. It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, I also like, I like sire angles. So give me the factor, turf sprinting, square eddy, turf sprinting. Like if they weren't, and then they are, and they can point back to any form, or if it's first time turf sprinting, those are horses I play a lot and you can often get prices on. And then I also like trainer angles too. If Linda Rice, for instance, very good turf sprinting, right? Peter Miller, very good turf sprinting. If I'm getting a price on those type of horses, that's another thing I'll look at. Baffert on the dirt, Brown on the turf is pretty good. Although Brown was killing it on the dirt at Saratoga and couldn't get a win home to save his life on the turf for a lot of that race. I will say I fade Baffert on the turf. That's another angle I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's was it Tarantino is a horse that he has that won his debut and then got second in the Zuma Beach Stakes on turf. And I was like, I might have said it to you offhandedly too, is if you put this horse in Phil D'Amato's barn or Richard Baltus or Dick Mandela, this is a Breeders' Cup horse because Baffert doesn't know what to do with a turf horse half the time. Most of the time.
You don't send a horse to Baffert because you want it to be a turf star. Right. That was not the plan. Let me tell you, that was the backup plan. And then I'm using backup very loosely there. The backup plan is usually send him to a new trainer. So, Baffert on the turf. And it's not that he can't do it. I can guarantee you he's overbet, though. It's Bob Baffert. So he's going to get bet. And his numbers just aren't as good on the turf as they are on the dirt.
Next question here. I apologize. I don't have your name here. My question revolves around jockeys. The advantage of a major race like the Kentucky Derby and the size of the fields, does that make it easier for some jockeys over others? Are there some who compete better with the bigger fields, or doesn't that matter? That's a good question. So in looking at the Breeders' Cup, this is accidentally very timely. So let's say the Breeders' Cup Classic, you got 12 horses, big field, at least for that. Are there some jockeys, in your opinion, Mike, who do better when there's a bigger field like that? That's a good question. I've never thought about that.
I would say there are certain ones I would definitely upgrade, and specifically because they are more aggressive. So like Paco Lopez is someone I like in a big field, which you may not think about all the time, but he is going to. Luis Saez is someone I like. They are more likely to put the horse forwardly placed.
Yes.
So right out of the gate, that's something I want in bigger field. The bigger the field, the more tactical speed matters. You don't necessarily want to be on the lead, but you want to be in that third or fourth spot because you're not going to get any trouble. You're going to get the best trip, and you're going to be able to choose your lane. You're not going to get stopped. Luis Saez and Paco Lopez, especially at lower levels, will consistently do that more than a lot of jockeys. When you're looking at these big races, I would almost lean toward the turf jockeys because turf races generally have more horses. So they have more experience looking at those. The other thing I like, and this is something where, I'm going to play we'll go with Mitch Merles of the world, right? Who he has experience at Keeneland. So if it's not, I'm going to be looking at some Keeneland jockeys because you see some funky trips at Keeneland. It's not a normal size racetrack. It's a little shorter than most places. So you have some unique trips that go there. So the jockeys that have been running there, I think, is also something I'll kind of lean toward for the Breeders' Cup specifically, is that if I don't love the horses that have the Irads of the world on them, the Pratts of the world on them, I'm going to be looking at Corey Lanerie. I'm going to be looking at Mitch Merle. I'm going to be looking at, Baparu. I'm going to be looking at some of those jockeys who have experience over this course and are doing well. So I'll look for those jockeys who have higher percentages at the specific Keeneland track.
Looking away from Breeders' Cup, for a big race, I like to see. There it is. I was looking it up. Mitch Merle. I was like, I know he just had another big bomb. The thing is, bet Mitch get rich. It was a $96 winner at Keeneland on the 15th last week.
Yeah, that was the 9-horse that wired the field, and I'm really not happy about it. That was the only race I missed in that sequence. That was fun.
God, I don't know with a jockey angle. How about this? I'll take this question and flip it a little bit. This was something I was going to say for a Breeders' Cup podcast, but I'll bust it out now and we can revisit it later. Okay. You've got to pick one jockey. Say the jockey colony for the Breeders' Cup weekend. Every jockey is going to run theoretically in every race. You have to pick one jockey to ride throughout the meet to try and win like a jockey fantasy thing or something like that. Which one jockey are you going to trust to be able to handle turf, dirt, sprint, route, etc.?
Irad.
That's a great pick. Yeah.
I wouldn't not even hesitate. It's not close in my mind.
That's a great pick because he's not, I usually think of Irad as a closing jockey, but you look at what he can do with someone like Newspaper of Record and he just knows how to ride any kind of horse. I'd say, I don't know. I love Flavien Prat, but I think I'm trying not to let my West Coast bias play a factor here. Prat, Irad. Irad's also going to get the Chad Brown mount. So I guess if you were thinking that literally for the Breeders' Cup, who are you going to want? He's going to get all of Chad's best horses no matter where they're at. So he's going to have that angle going too. In the chat, this is a good one. Tyler Gafflione. He's been riding really well. He seems like he's pretty adaptable for any situation. Joel.
Wait till the big boys show up. Like that's the T-Gaff's doing great, riding well. He's not beating the big boys yet. Just wait until everybody shows up.
What are you talking about? He's been at Keeneland. He's been at New York. He's not the Gulfstream kid anymore.
How did he do at Gulfstream this year?
Oh, I don't know.
How was his champions meet? I don't know either. I'm sad because that's when you had
I was like, you have this info?
Pieces. Yeah, and let's say, look at this. I would take Irad if every single horse had the exact same talent, right? If we had a unique situation, we had 14 horses, the same talent, and every jockey rides them, and they draw right before with whether or not they're a speeder or closer. I'll take Irad in that situation, not just because of the horses he rides. I actually think he is the best jockey in these situations.
There's I forget what it's called exactly, but there's a jockey challenge that they do in Hong Kong where it's like they invite all the best jockeys from around the world to show up, and I think you're randomly given horses. You don't get to pick your mount. It's almost like you draw out of a hat. And like I remember Javier Castellano went a couple of years ago, and it was like you get the 6 horse in this race, the 4 horse in this race, and the idea is to see, can you as a jockey take anything you're given and try and do well. It's an interesting practice that they have there. I don't know as a bettor if I would love that, because if you've got someone who's, like Irad and Chad, if they're always riding really well together and then suddenly you get drawn and it's like, all right, well, now you get you get Chris Landeros on a Chad Brown horse, you're like, well, okay, it's a Chad Brown horse on turf. But
you just love banging Chris Landeros. You should have used Victor. That could have been your one Victor bang for the show.
Oh, I'm saving that one.
Okay, good.
I always save the Victor bangs for the best. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no comment. So let's re-swizzle it. If you could pick any jockey in history, which one would you pick?
That's not a good question for either one of us. Neither of us are good at history.
I would take Jerry Bailey in a heartbeat.
Jerry Bailey. He unfortunately passed before I got into the sport. I've heard a lot of great things about Garrett Gomez, Corey Nakatani before he got hurt and couldn't ride anymore. He, a bunch of Breeders' Cup races.
Your West Coast bias is just shining through here.
But I didn't know those guys. Well, I knew Corey, but yeah, because I know Garrett he's won a bunch of Breeders' Cup races. Garrett Gomez? Yeah. You want me to pull that up? Garrett Gomez, the jockey.
I'm not. Yeah.
Yes. 13 Breeders' Cup races, 2 Eclipse
Really?
Awards. Yes.
I cannot believe that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Bailey's got 15. Interesting. All right. I will no longer slander Garrett Gomez. My bad.
Frankie Dettori's, I feel like if we're going to be at Ascot, that's the jockey that I think you go with. But Rick James, I love Rick James when he's on the Blinkers Off. If you ever watch Blinkers Off live, Rick James is there commenting a lot of stuff. And by the way, this is proof. Jared keeps thinking it's me sometimes. This is proof that I am not behind the Rick James account. He's just throwing out random names now.
The Dettori one would be interesting because I don't know if Frankie Dettori, that's one where we don't know because we don't know the mounts he gets on dirt. How you can really properly analyze it. It'd be interesting to see what he did if he got all the dirt mounts as well, because that one would be, he's clearly the best at Ascot. It'd be interesting to see what he could do on Breeders' Cup weekend with a bunch of good dirt mounts.
I've been wanting to get to this one for a long time. Jim at Notabot, that's great. Congrats on the 200. Been listening for a couple of years now. How many tracks have you guys been to? Name one that impressed you more than you were expecting, and then we'll get to the best method to break a losing streak. So let's focus on the tracks first. I haven't been to that many. Churchill, Los Al, Del Mar, Santa Anita. 4. That's it.
Churchill, Gulfstream, Belmont, Woodbine, Arlington, Santa Anita, Lone Star, Remington, Los Al, Fairmont Park. Fairmont
right. Park. That's right. You live in St. Louis. I forgot.
Del Mar. Did I say Santa Anita?
You're already over 10, which is more than my 4.
Yeah, I've been to a couple. By far, most surprise experience, Remington Park. By far, we were driving across the country and we stopped in at Remington Park, and it is really cool atmosphere. You can walk right up to the track. Good front yard area or front stretch area where they got tables. Really family friendly environment. Jenna went, and she doesn't go to the track all that often. She's like, "Hey, this is nice. It was clean. It was easy to get around the paddock. Good food, cheap drinks. Remington Park, shockingly, would go way up the list of places. Definitely the highest above expectation rating, right? If you're walking in expecting a 3, because I was expecting Los Al or Fairmont, that, and then you walk in and you get the 8.5, 9. You're like, wow, this is actually a nice way to spend the evening.
It looks really nice on TVG if I'm watching or the photos or anything. It looks like a nice place. I know Aaron will be happy to hear that. I think he's out walking his dog. He was in here watching us earlier and he just disappeared. Did the old Irish exit. I've got 4 tracks. So one that I will say the one that took my breath away was Del Mar, because when you get there, it's just a different, you're literally on the beach, the ocean's right there. When you step out and you can see the rolling hills with the condos, you can see the ocean from where, depending on where you're sitting at. It's very chill at Del Mar. Even on a big day, there's just an air of, maybe it's the sea air. It just feels more relaxed and less stressful. So I would say for me that impressed me was Del Mar, just because it didn't feel like Santa Anita where you got people screaming and ripping up tickets everywhere. They're doing that at Del Mar. There's just something about it. Did you ever get that feeling at Del Mar?
I love Del Mar, man. If favorite tracks to go to, Saratoga and Del Mar 1 2. It's not close. It's not close. And those are obviously the marquee tracks. You'll hear a lot, but Del Mar is such an experience to go and check out. I love being able to be there, and you can sit in that bar right above the paddock. It's beautiful, both inside and outside. Just an amazing track, and it's just really a surreal environment. Saratoga is just a tradition. It just oozes tradition when you walk around there, and it's absolutely amazing. So, yeah, for me, Saratoga and Del Mar just have a special place. But there's a lot of other tracks. Arlington is an awesome track. Woodbine was a blast when I went there. Remington, I obviously already mentioned. Gulfstream Park, I think, is underrated. I don't know how many people have gone to it since they did all the renovations. It's got a casino, but it's got a small little front area that you can sit in. It's not too crowded. It's free to get in. There's a lot of plus sides.
Casino.
Yeah, you got the nice casino there. So, I like Gulfstream too, but I like going to the racetrack, man. That's the bottom line. Just put me at a racetrack and I want to be a happy camper.
I'm with you. Rick James is about to get blocked. Fauner Park, Finger Lakes. Come on, get out of here. Get out of here with the Finger. The one good thing about Finger Lakes, I love their announcer, but that's the only thing going to. Dennis says the Red Mile. That's harness race. Yeah, harness racing at Red Mile.
Hawthorne, check that one off the list. And I also went to the other harness track in Chicago too. Can't remember the name of it right now.
Oh, crap. I just lost it too. I know what you're talking about. Shoot. Anyways,
harness. I'm at like 15 or 20, I bet.
Jeez. Yeah, you're going up there. The Jim had one more question. Best method to break a losing streak? I would say just stop betting. If you're betting on a losing streak, stop betting, steal handicap, and then do what Mike and I do all the time, and we talk about all the time, which is go back and figure out do virtual bets, fake bets. Why were you right? Why were you wrong? Like that is how I learned is I stopped betting because it was just so effing damn expensive to pay for that sort of an education.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. On Redboard Rewind, Spencer asked me, what do you do when you're when you're hot? What do you do when you're on a losing streak? I do nothing different. I'm one of the, I think that the worst thing you can do during a losing streak is start to second guess yourself. You kind of have to believe in yourself when you're betting. And if you think you're bad at it, then yeah, okay, let's take a step back. Let's try and get better. Let's figure out how to get better. I think looking at and this is something I do every hot or cold. I always look at the race after the race. That's the number one thing I think people should do more when they are in a losing streak is look back and be like, hey, why did I end up on this horse I ended up on? Why didn't I end up on the winner? What angle caught me? What am I doing? What did I miss here, right? Or was it just sheer bad luck that happened? Like sometimes I'm never getting to that horse. That horse ran a career best effort, and it is what it is, right? But to me, it's the process that you have to. It's weird to say this. I'm not a 76er fan, but you got to trust the process. You got to trust that your handicapping process is going to get it done. And one thing that I did a couple months ago was switching back to paper because I felt like I was doing better with paper, and I immediately had results that paid off from that. So sometimes you need to adjust the process. But, it's these little tweaks. I don't think it's like just stop betting for 2 weeks because I don't think that what makes you better the 15th day that you weren't the first day, right? How did that 2 weeks actually help you unless you're mentally just drained, right? So for me, it's stick to what you're doing, but make sure you're spending the time on why you were losing.
I guess the reason I said stop betting is because I have if you've watched the show, Mike and I have different bankrolls. And so for me, if I've only got a limited budget that I'm sticking to for the week or the month, and I'm hoping that, at some point I'm going to start winning something. If I'm on a losing streak, that's why I take it back. It's because I'm flushing it. I'll go through the process and figure out why. But for me personally, I'm like, if I've only got a set amount to work with, it's going to sit there and collect dust until I start learning. Okay, what did I get wrong? What did I get right? Figure things out from there. I wanted to go to this question before we leave. Darren Sipes is always great interactive. I want to make sure we got to this. How do you handicap the Euro turfers? I think he's looking for the Breeders' Cup. I'm sure he's talking about other things too. But do you look at running style, speed figs? I know time form is the one international speed figure that can transfer over pretty well. Ability to handle turns. The ability to handle turns part. Who was that? Who was the Jockey horse? Well, I asked. Yeah, there was one horse that was going in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint at Churchill in 2018 that I really loved. And you made a joke. I don't know how serious you were, but you're like
poo-pooing that they didn't go around turns.
He's never in his
life.
It was the first time he was ever going to turn, and so I got to meet Ushin Murphy, this jockey, a couple days before the race, and I flat out asked him because I was like, "That's a good question. I don't know." And I asked him, and he looked at me, and he's like, "Yeah, he can handle turns. Like he trains on a track with turns." Like he looked at me like. He was really nice, but I could tell he was trying to not just laugh at the idea of that question. So ability to handle turns, I'm not questioning that ever.
Yeah. One of the first things I look at on when you have European shipping is the turf condition. I often fear firm turf courses for Euros. I think that played out at Del Mar last year. And you've seen that in some of the Santa Anita races where the Euros come over and struggle because of the firm turf course. So the track condition is a big thing for me. And what track conditions they've successfully run against or run well with in Europe. So like if you see a lot of soft wins and then you see those good losses, the track condition's good and they lose, I'm going to veer away from that horse on a United States course generally or North American course because we generally have much firmer turf than you see in Europe. As far as running style, so speed, like turfs sprints, I throw them out. I generally don't use them. I think Magic would agree with that. They just don't have the speed into them. The longer the race, the more relevant I think they become, because I think that helps them with the running style that you see in Europe. And after that, it's really okay. Can they handle the track? It's who they've been running against. So do I recognize any of the names in the form list? And then the time form number. And generally, I'm going to subtract between 15 and 18 points to get a buyer from the time form.
Yeah, that's a good angle. Just because I know Aaron's gonna need to, I can hear him already screaming about it. There was 1 Euro who won at the Breeders' Cup San Diego last year. It was Iridessa. But to your point, a lot of the big name horses that came over ran like shit, or they didn't handle it very well. There was you had the one horse that won, but there were plenty of American. I mean, the fact that Bricks and Mortar and United were 1-2 at the end there, that's a good one.
And I had Iridessa because she had done well on good and firm turf. She was actually gettable in last year's Breeders' Cup. So, bam.
Dennis likes to handicap Euros in the Breeders' Cup based on the temperature, weather, climate. Yeah, playing a similar thing. California hot, so you're not nearly as much moisture, especially at Santa Anita. Europe is cold with a bad ground. Keeneland could be a good combination. Keeneland's had really nice turf so far. I hope that we can see firm to a good firm running for that, but the Euros obviously they're going to want something softer.
Yeah, they will. And Keeneland's an interesting track too because it's a little tighter on the turns, so that may be a negative. But I would have to go back. I honestly have not done any research in Keeneland Breeders' Cups yet, so I will definitely have to do that. But even thinking about this meet, I haven't seen a lot of Europeans win first time out. I mean, I guess there was that brown horse at Belmont that we talked about. I can't remember any first time North American horses winning at the current Keeneland meet.
You would know better than I was. If it wasn't a stakes race, I probably wasn't paying attention too much to Keeneland. It's been too hard. But speaking of the Breeders' Cup, this is a good segue. At racingnews.com, this is a bigger project than I thought it was going to be. I'm putting together all 14 races, a tracker of who we think is coming over right now, because it's right now there's all these questions. It seems to change day by day. Every time you and I talk about horses on here, Mike, for the Breeders' Cup, literally the next day they're all scratched. Found out before we went to air that Gaiath is retired. So they're dropping like flies right now. At least it's happening before the guide comes out.
That race is wildly open now because
Breeders' Cup turf, in case you don't know what we're talking.
Yeah, Magical's not coming. Love's not coming. Gaiath is not coming. And so you've had now the favorite is Mogul at 7.25 or 2.75 to 1 right now overseas, plus 275. Magical's still listed at plus 250, but with Gaiath out, it makes it interesting. Channel Maker drops down to 5 to 1. Taranawa, I don't know. Taranawa is now the third choice.
Is that an Aidan O'Brien horse? That's a Euro.
Yeah, it's a Euro at plus 350. So you now have new Euros who have moved to the top of that list, but Gufo is now 12 to 1. Zulu Alpha 12 to 1. Untitled 8 to 1. So the prices have gone down a lot on the U.S. horses since we discussed it last week.
Tarnawa is Dermot Welt. Sorry, I got that wrong. But 1-2 grade Group 1 races in France in the fall. She's a filly, so she also could go to the filly and mare turf. I'm not sure about that. United, Aquaphobia, Red King. God, we're really scraping the bottom here. This is.
It's bomb worthy now. You could see a price come home in that race. That could be one of the goofier races now. A Channel Maker all of a sudden is like, hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?
Zulu Alpha.
Yeah.
Well, he's not gonna be a price, but I mean, I was just trying to think of who could. I find a Euro that's getting ignored. That's the one. That's the one that's gonna win. Whichever, if there's a Euro sitting up there on the board, Chile, that's the one that's gonna do it.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. I kind of like Instilled Regard right now. With who the probables are and the likelihood of a medium to slow pace up front, Chad Brown, Instilled Regard going along on the turf. He's done it well this year already. Mm-hmm. You give me 12 to 1 on race day. I'll probably be putting a few shekels there. Well,
anyways, over at racenews.com, hopefully by the end of Monday, or more likely the way things are going on Tuesday, we'll have a full list for each race. It'll be pinned right on the homepage. So if you're ever curious about what horses might be going, it's something I'm going to update daily. I've got a few different sources that I'm constantly checking to put this thing together. So make sure you go to racenews.com and check that out. While you're there, go to the Handicapping products page. We have the Inside Track wagering guide for the Breeders' Cup, which is going to be a very big, massive event, one of the biggest things that we do all year. That is going to be available for pre-sale soon. Aaron and Jared are working on something a little different this year. There's going to be a little bit of a live bankroll strategy going on. So make sure you are checking that out once it comes out. And hey, check out some of the Summer Bombs. Mr. Samich, where are you looking to head this coming weekend?
Probably go Keeneland again, man. It's been razor thin edges that we're just missing by right now. We had 7 of 10 winners on Saturday, lost 2 photos, and the other horse was a deep ticket horse that we didn't have on the tickets. So it's just so darn close right now. We hit a couple pick 4s this weekend, had 3 4 out of 5. So it's seeing the ball. It's just, too many foul balls, not enough, not putting enough over the fence. So it's one of those where it feels like it's coming, and it's just waiting for that score to hit right now. So hopefully we can get it home this weekend.
Well, speaking of this weekend, we could do Golden Hour again, but Belmont Park has got they've got their New York bred program. They do this, I remember, every year in the fall, where it's all New York bred races. So I don't know if we could do Keeneland, we could do Golden Hour, we could go to Belmont Park and see how well you remember the New York breds up there.
Let's look at the weather, and then let's
that's a great one.
Because I want to make sure we don't get rained off Belmont. If we don't get rained off Belmont, I'm in like Flynn.
Let's see. Monday, Tuesday showers. Wednesday through the weekend. Next weekend, it's all sunny, partly cloudy. So we'll pencil in Belmont. But I'm with you. The last thing I want to do is, Aaron says it's dumb when I complain about this. The last thing I want to do is waste a bunch of everyone's time. And then have all these turf races off.
I hate recapping it. And then then you post up the ticket, well, everything changed. It's well, they rained off the turf. That's why everything changed. So yeah, but we'll take a look. If the weather holds off, let's head to Belmont. If not, let's either do Santa Anita or Keeneland for the pick 4.
Perfect. Awesome. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. I am at Curtis Kellard. He is at SummerBomb 18, number 1, number 8. Corporate Overlords are at Racing_Dudes. Make sure you tune in on Thursday. We'll be back with another episode of the Magic Mike Show. Until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Go Steelers.
Go Chiefs and go Cowboys. Let's close out Mike's money line parlay.
Good luck this week. We'll see you guys on Thursday.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.